I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, we all know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, we all know the rest of it, right? I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, and you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
Well, I scream, you scream, well, I think you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, and everybody knows the rest. I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, and you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
A day on the retail calendar that can be enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or a couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or maybe the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from the desk or even the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch. From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or a couch.
From a desk or your couch. From the desk or the couch.
From your desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or a couch.
From your desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or even the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or a couch.
From a desk
Or the couch.
from a desk or the couch.
School is a habit training mechanism. Schooling is a form of adoption. You give your kid away at his most, or his or her most plastic years, to a group of strangers. You accept a promise, sometimes stated and more often implied, that the state, to its agents, knows better how to raise your children and educate them than you, your neighbors, your grandparents, your local traditions do. And that your kid will be better off so adopted. By the time the child returns to the family or has the option of doing that, very few want to. Their parents are some form of friendly stranger too, and why not? In the key hours of growing up, strangers have reared the kid. Now let's look at the strangers, of which you were one and I was one. Regardless of our good feeling toward children, regardless of our individual talents or intelligence, we have so little time each day with each of these kids, we can't possibly know enough vital information about that particular kid to tailor a set of exercises to that kid. Oh, some of us, will try more than others, but there simply isn't any time to do it to a significant degree. So what we do is accept, and of course if we don't accept this, we're fired or harassed. We accept a state's prescription that's written in manuals. You do this first, and this second, and this third, and here you have a little latitude to talk to the kids. And the way the state checks on whether you've followed that diet is there's standardized tests given at intervals. If your kids do badly, it does not mean that they're bad readers or anything else. It means that they haven't been obedient to the drills the state set down, and they're marked for further treatment later on, or they're marked to be excluded from responsible jobs. Perhaps some ways by being excluded from the colleges that lead to responsible jobs, in other ways from the licenses that lead to responsible jobs. This was all worked out. It didn't evolve by a lot of rational people saying, we'll take this, this, and this from the past, then the next generation will take this, this, and this. This was set down largely in a handful of places.
We as people are more foolish than ever before. And I believe that to be the case. In the Bible it says in the last days the laws would be changed. And these things, if you cannot see these things playing out and right in front of your eyes, you must be blind. And also the agenda of of how we treat each other. We're killers. We're murderers. We go out and kill a person from one country for our own beliefs in another country. It doesn't make any sense as well. And we condone these things by not taking action against them. So we are actually at fault on every level. They don't have to change the law and say that you cannot kill or whatever. They just do it anyway. So whether the law is there that you can kill or not kill, it's going on like it's a written law that you can. Okay, now when you look at education or the same thing, media, these are the things that we learn from. Our television is a polluted device that the enemy has used to control us. And for non-believers, it's hard for them to consider that a group of people would get all together and orchestrate all these things from behind closed doors in a fashion like that they think all on the same page. The one world government is the main stage, and this is orchestrated out of the League of Nations, or in other words, the United Nations, what they call themselves now. The United Nations is basically the one world government, and the controlling class of the United Nations is the team that wants things to work as Satan wants them to work. There is a war agenda that is being played out right now in front of our eyes, and they want you to believe that it's coming in slowly. This is how they use the media to let you know things that they want you to know. Not that they are all true facts, but they want you to believe in them. Satan is in control of all parts of our lives, each and every one. He's the head of the class. And education. When you see that the fact that the system is controlled by government, that's when you should be frightened. Government is Satan's number one control system. Government, and behind government is the banking system. So if the education is controlled by the government, you know it's controlled by the Satan himself as well. Basically, this education system that we're in is teaching us how to work for the elite, the controlling class. They teach us what they want us to know to do their work or work for them. This is where we pay taxes to them, and they use our tax money to do whatever it is they want to build or orchestrate. If it has government behind it, like I said earlier, you should be wary of it. Freedom of speech is gone. You can't speak out like I am right now. I'm putting myself at risk right now because I'm sure at some point, maybe not this point, but at some point, they're going to want to stop me from speaking out. If too many people get aware what I'm saying or what I'm trying to show you. Remember, we're speaking of the controller of the world, or the prince of darkness, the master of lies. He doesn't care about which lie you believe, just so you don't believe the truth or you don't hear about the truth. That's all that's important to Satan. the more you can believe in his system, the easier it is for you to be caught up and be a part of his system. The things that he wants, the things of the world. Every broadcast or television station is controlled by the elite. Basically, all the stuff that you hear about, even the weather, comes from one central organization. The weatherman in your city or your location gets their information from the same one as the one in another part of the country, maybe 2,000, 3,000 miles away, if your country's that big, like Canada and the United States. So they're not really doing any work. They're actually just listening to the puppet masters tell them what to say and what to do. It's the nicest and coziest kind of work there is. They get paid well to do their devious things that control a highly populated area. And this is what they want, or this is what makes things easier for them. Television and schools. Watch this clip.
The world judged the Iraqi regime was a dangerous aggressor. In the interests of world peace and regional security, the community of nations required Iraq to surrender its offensive arsenal, its chemical and biological weapons, and abandon its nuclear weapons program. Iraq agreed to comply.
The world judged the Iraqi regime to be a dangerous aggressor. In the interests of world peace and regional security, the community of nations expelled Iraq from Kuwait, required Iraq to surrender its offensive arsenal, its chemical biological weapons, and to abandon its nuclear weapons program. Iraq agreed to comply. Iraq's continued defiance of the community of nations presents a challenge which must be addressed.
Presents a challenge which must
the member
be addressed.
For Grindler.
It is inherently
dangerous to allow a country such as
Iraq to retain weapons of mass destruction, particularly in the light of its past aggressive behaviour.
That's right. If the world community fails to disarm Iraq, we fear that other rogue states will be encouraged to believe that they too can have these weapons, these most deadly of weapons, to systematically defy international resolutions, and that the world will do nothing to stop them. That is the ultimate nightmare, which the world must take decisive and effective steps to prevent.
Possession of chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons by terrorists would constitute a direct, undeniable, and lethal threat to the world, including to Canada
Australia
and its people.
The world has tried other means for years,
but so far to no avail. We cannot walk away from the threat that Iraq's continued possession of weapons of mass destruction constitutes to its region and to the wider world. In the final analysis, Mr. Speaker, the absolute conviction of the government is that disarming Iraq is necessary for the long-term security of the world and is therefore manifestly in the national interest of Australia.
In the final analysis, disarming Iraq is necessary for the long-term security of the world, to the collective interests of our historic allies, and therefore manifestly, Mr. Speaker, it is in the national interest of this country.
How many of you know what chemtrails are? Nobody. In the 20th century, clouds were seeded by numerous countries around the globe with various chemicals to produce rain. China was just doing this over the summer in Beijing to make sure that there weren't any rain, that there wasn't any rain during the Olympics. But all this has changed dramatically with the U.S. military's secretive research and plans to control the planet's natural weather. This has not been given very much press, and we have to remember that we have a corporate-owned press where 85% of radio, television, and print media is owned by 5 corporations. So they're not going to talk about things that are of really serious consequence, and that's somewhat of the blessing, a mixed blessing of the Internet, but there's certainly plenty of information on weather modification.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about troubling and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely
Dangerous to our democracy.
This is
Extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Dangerous.
extremely dangerous to our democracy.
extremely
Dangerous to our democracy.
This has not been given very much press, and we have to remember that we have a corporate-owned press where 85% of radio, television, and print media is owned by 5 corporations. So they're not going to talk about things that are of really serious consequence.
You are an old man who thinks in terms of nations and peoples. There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West. There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. Petrodollars, electrodollars, multi-dollars, Reichmarks, Rins, rubles, pounds, and shekels. It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life on this planet. There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today. What do you think the Russians talk about in their councils of state? Karl Marx? They get out their linear programming charts, statistical decision theories, Minimax solutions, and compute the price-cost probabilities of their transactions and investments, just like we do. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
Work. For you.
It's not really as bad as it seems. It's all going to be done in any case. You might as well be on the side that gets you well paid for your efforts.
And what side are you on?
There are no sides. There's no Sunnis and Shiites. There's no Democrats and Republicans. There's only haves and have-nots.
What exactly does working for you entail, Senator? Huh? Raping and murdering innocent women and children, you sick fuck? You sanctioned the mass murder of an entire village so a pipeline could go through.
One village! And it brought stability to the region, which means that no one chops off their arms because their grandmother's grandfather belonged to a different tribe. This is a country where the Secretary of Defense can go on TV and tell the American public, oh, that this is about freedom, it's not about oil. And nobody questions him. Because they don't want to hear the answer because it's a lie. There's only so many places at the table, Gunny. Now, are you on the inside or are you on the out?
Where do you think you're going?
Washington. You gonna shoot a sitting U.S. senator in the back